And when I think about the future 1,000 years from now, with the way technology is accelerating and the capacity that we have and ability to change things, to change the world, to change physical structures, to change bodies, to dig into the ground and extract resources. Like we're getting better and better at changing things and manipulating things, at extracting power from the sun and extracting salt from the water. There's like all this bizarre change technology that's consistently and constantly going on with people. And it continues to get better. When I think about 1,000 years from now and artificial people and this concept of being able to read each other's minds and being able to map out imagery and pass it back and forth from mind to mind in like a clear spreadsheet form, like what is that movie, the Tom Cruise movie? Minority Report. Thank you. I mean, that's on the way. It's on the way. It's going to be incredibly strange to be a person.
Yeah, whether we will be people in 1,000 years, I think you would, unless we have done something terrible and knocked ourselves back 1,000 years, I think we will decide to change ourselves in that time in ways that will make us. There may be many different species. It's like tattoos. You have a bunch of tattoos. I have none. You could take that a lot further if you can just begin really tinkering with everything.
Oh yeah, if you want to get nutty and put bolts in your head and shit.
Yeah, or just give yourself just fundamentally different genetic abilities, right? I mean, like you could just go, you could become a different species if you took it far enough.
Maybe that's what the aliens are. Maybe that's why they all look the same. Maybe they figured it out. Like, look, you got to look alike. Otherwise, you can't appreciate each other. One guy's weird looking, one guy's short, one guy's got a big nose. Everybody's so confusing. Too many people I can hate. Everybody look exactly the same. Yeah. So the government gets together with all the people of their planet and they go, look, we have a problem with this good looking thing. It's bullshit. It's holding us back. A lot of people that are stupid, they're getting ahead. We got to all look the same. Blank, emotionless, and big giant eyes. Yeah. That's it. They all just went in.
Yeah. With a passion for molesting cattle.
Allegedly. I think that's people. People are blaming that on the aliens.
I had this guy on my podcast, David Deutsch. Have you heard of him? He's a physicist at Oxford.
Yes, I have. Why have I heard of him?
He wrote a book. He gave at least one TED Talk, and he's written two very good books. The first came out about 10 years ago, The Fabric of Reality, and the more recent one is The Beginning of Infinity. And extremely smart guy and very nice guy. And he has this thesis which he and I don't totally agree about the implications going forward for AI, but he's convinced me that of his basic thesis, which is fascinating, which is his the role that knowledge plays in our universe, or the potential role that it plays. And his argument is that in any corner of the universe, anything that is compatible with the laws of physics can be done with the requisite knowledge. So he has this argument about how deep knowledge goes and therefore how valuable it is in the end. So I'm cueing off your notion of building an artificial person, I mean, literally, cell by cell or atom by atom. If that, there's every reason to believe that's compatible with the laws of physics. I mean, we exist, right? So we got built by the happenstance of biology. If we had what he calls a universal constructor, the smallest machine that could assemble any other machine atom by atom, we could build anything atom by atom, right? And so he has this vision of it, like you could literally go into an area of deep space that is as close to a vacuum as possible, and begin sweeping up stray hydrogen atoms and fuse them together and generate heavier elements. I mean, so you could start with nothing but hydrogen, right? And with the requisite knowledge, build your own little fusion reactor, create heavier elements, and based on those elements, create the smallest machine that can then assemble anything else atom by atom, including more of itself, right? And you could start this process of building anything from a person to, something far more advanced than a person.
To a planet?
Just anything is made of atoms, right? Anything is organized. And so the limiting factor in that case is always the knowledge, right? So it's either the limiting factor is either the laws of physics, either this can't be done because it's physically impossible, or the knowledge is what you're lacking. And given that human beings are physically impossible, there should be some knowledge path whereby you could assemble one atom by atom, right? There's no reason why, there's no deep physical reason why that wouldn't be the case. The reason is we don't know how to do it, right? But presumably it'd be possible for us to acquire that knowledge. And so the horizon of knowledge extends functionally without limit, right? We're nowhere near the place where we know everything that's knowable, as witnessed by the fact that we don't yet know how to build a human atom by atom. But when you imagine just the changes that could occur in our world, with the frontiers of knowledge explored, 10,000 years beyond where we are now, I mean, we would be unrecognizable to ourselves. I mean, everything would be equivalent to magic, if we could see it now. And most of human history is not like that. In most of human history, if you dropped into any period of human history, it was, for all intents and purposes, identical to the way it was 500 years before and 500 years before that. It's only very recently where you would drop in and be surprised by the technology and by the culture and by the what is being done with language and the consequences of cooperation among apes like ourselves. And so I think that, this is one place where someone like Kurzweil makes a lot of sense. This is clearly accelerating, right? And if we don't do something catastrophic to set us back, this acceleration is the implication is that the future is going to be far less recognizable than it has been in any other period of human history.
The idea of creating a little machine that you could shoot out into the universe and it'll build you a planet.
Yeah. But the planet's not planet's obviously big and the basis for our biosphere and everything we care about. But the planet is not what's complicated. It's the
ecosystem.
It's the life on the planet, and
right.
Our own brains being the ultimate example of that complexity. But presumably, intelligent systems can become much more complex than that. Right? There's no reason to think that we are near the summit of possible intelligence, biological or otherwise. And it's once you begin thinking about building things atom by atom, then the future begins to look very weird, because it's automating that process, right? Where you have, and this is the promise of nanotechnology, where you have tiny machines that can both build more of themselves and more of anything else that would be made of tiny machines, or assemble anything atom by atom, or treat your own body like the machine that it is and deal with it atom by atom. I mean, that's the possibilities of intervention in the human body are then virtually limitless. So it's that's where the physical world begins to look just totally fungible. When you're not talking about surgery where you're cutting into someone's head and hoping, in very coarse ways, hoping you're not taking out areas of brain that they need, but you're talking about actually repairing. If you can tinker with atoms in a way that you understand, then you're talking about repairing anything,
and creating anything.
Yeah.
Like literally Dr. Manhattan style, build ice condos on Mars. I mean, you could create art with it. You could do anything with it. It would just somehow or another have to be programmed with whatever pattern you were trying to create. So
Yeah.
you could essentially like make an Earth somewhere else with all the biological diversity, water, even intelligent life. It all could be done through some sort of a machine.
Well, it is
ultimately one day.
It is at bottom, again, just the information. It's the knowledge of how to. It's organized and how to implement it. So it's like it's analogous to what has happened in films now, where like the animation in film has gotten good suddenly, right? Where you can see like they can animate, waving hair and flowing water, and it looks pretty damn good. It looked terrible 30 years ago, right? And we just acclimated to it looking terrible. But now you can really trick the eye. You can build up scenes of nature where they're not actually using any photography of nature to build it up. It's all a confection of ones and zeros, right? They've just built it in software.
Like The Revenant, perfect example. That giant bear that attacked Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right. See, I don't know how that was done, but I mean, I had heard that was all just pure CGI, right?
There's a dude in a costume that acted it out with him, but essentially it was just all CGI.
Yeah. So that the fact that that's beginning to look good, that's just, I mean, obviously that's just all surface. That has no implication for the building a rendering of a bear on film is not the same thing as building a bear. But the fact that we can move so far into building, modeling that kind of complexity visually, you just imagine what a super intelligent mind could do with 1,000 years to work at it, right? And that's we're on the cusp of, and when I say cusp, I don't mean 5 years, but let's say a century. We're on the cusp of producing the kind of technology that would allow for that.